Hey, welcome everyone to our latest episode of Electrek. Thanks for joining us again. Fred Lambert, as usual, and I'm joined with Seth Wintraub. How are you doing, Seth?
Good, Fred. How are you?
I'm great. And this week we have another great week for electric vehicle news, especially the Model 3 as usual, which dominates our coverage because it's just so many new updates is coming in every week from new owners since Tesla started ripping up production. And this week, what we've seen again is an expansion of Tesla sending out configuration invites to reservation holders. So,
Right.
yeah,
Now it's not just East Coast and West Coast Tesla owners who reserved on day one. It's also people in the Midwest. So we got reports from New Mexico, Ohio,
Arizona,
Arizona,
Tennessee.
kind of all over the place. I think
Yeah,
pretty much everywhere. But the caveat is that you're still Tesla owners only, and it's still, I think, day one. I don't think anybody reserved like after the announcement.
yeah, likely still they won. I'm not 100% sure on this one yet, but yeah, the big caveat, like you said, is still only current Tesla owners. So people were receiving their invitation have a Model S or a Model 3 right now, or Model X. Model 3 is coming, but yeah, that's the big priority right now for current Tesla owners. We expect it's gonna change relatively soon because the expansion is going pretty fast. Like I said, it was only California for a while, for months really, and then quickly it expanded to the East Coast, in the Midwest, and now almost every market in the US can technically have access to Model 3. But the way we're seeing happen, I think a lot of people are waiting for the smaller battery pack, are waiting for a cheaper price, maybe not the premium interior, maybe the all-wheel drive. So there's still not a lot of options that are not available yet that result in a higher sticker price and maybe not as much option that people would like. So I think even though Tesla has an incredible demand for the car, many people are probably waiting, and that should result in Tesla working through the backlog faster, and maybe we're going to see them losing that Tesla owner priority soon. What do you think?
Yeah, I think new people in California will probably be pretty soon. And the reason is if you have $50,000, $60,000, you're probably like, maybe I'll just buy a Model S.
Mm.
Or, the people who really want to get into the Model 3 are typically $35,000 to $45,000 range folks. Who want the sedan. I mean, that's why people have waited all this time for this car and put down the money. So it's not surprising to me to see them go through the premium version quicker than you would immediately think. I have heard though, like just to expand on the rollout. I haven't got my appointment time yet. I was scheduled to. I'm in New York. I was scheduled to configure at the beginning of January, and it said 4 weeks at the time, so it'd be like literally January 31st or February 1st. I have heard that some people in New York are going to receive theirs in Brooklyn in the last week of January. So I think I think the first East Coast deliveries should be probably around then. I don't know that. I think New Yorkers were around the first round of deliveries. I think they probably prepped the Brooklyn Red Hook delivery center because just the amount of people in the area.
It's kind of the flagship store in New York, I think, too, right?
Yeah, it's the big store, and I think they've got a little bit of space for a ton of Model 3s to come in. Although Mount Kisco, which is mine, which is up in Westchester, is a little bit. Also has a big audience. I don't know if it's as big or as Red Hook, but I know they're already growing out of their location size.
Yeah, but we also learned, speaking of the stores in New York, we learned yesterday that Tesla is bringing the display cars to on the East Coast, starting with their store in Manhattan in the Meatpacking District, and their store in Boston, which also have a big flagship store in Boston there, and it's getting also a display car. So people right now today during opening hours. They can go see the car and sit in it. So it's one of the really rare chance to sit in the car, because Tesla brought the vehicle at a few events and at the like the LA Auto Show, for example, but people weren't allowed to sit in it. So that's really your best shot at experiencing the Model 3 right now. And also, normally it should follow with test drives. So that's really the big thing people have been asking for a while, because Tesla was first promising a test fleet, I think, in Q3 2017. So if you were still looking for that's been delayed for a while for sure. But now we are at 4 stores in California that have a Model 3, and 3 on the East Coast starting today. Florida and Miami, Manhattan and Boston have their Model 3s. If the rollout in California is an indication, today, if you can stop by and see the car, it should be all right. Shouldn't be too crazy. But in California, what we saw in Los Angeles and Palo Alto, the weekend got really crazy last week. And last weekend, hundreds of people showed up at the stores. There were long wait lines to see Model 3. Some people were talking about an hour and a half. So if you're planning to stop by this weekend in the new stores that are getting the Model 3, especially in the East Coast, since it's going to be the first time, I'll take that into account before going to the store.
Yeah, it's kind of weird to have a line to sit in the car, but it's also weird to have a line to buy a car and a year wait to get in the car. So I guess
because most of the people are reservation holders and they've already been waiting for like 2 years. Though there's always the crowd effect. Like if a crowds start to show up, maybe you get the impression that there's something happening and people show up, because all those stores what they have in common is that they are mostly in malls.
Right.
Tesla like to have a high foot traffic area for their stores, so that doesn't help the situation too.
Yeah, it should be fun. I mean, it should. It's going to draw a crowd. It's kind of crazy that, and I've said this before, it's crazy that this many people, 450,000 or whatever, have put money down on a car that they've never, seen in person. Most people haven't seen it in person. They don't know any, now they're just finding out the specs of it now, just getting car reviews now. And it's not even official reviews. It's just like some guy who got one, put it on Turo, and we rented it for a day. And this is the Motor Trend review or whatever. So it's like now that people can actually sit in it and say, whoa, this is crazy cool, and it's 35,000, and holy cow, maybe Tesla's going to get another 450,000 people.
Oh, I'm sure of it. I'm actually sure of it. Like if people thought that the 500, they were coming close to 500,000 before they got into production in July. They were getting close to 500,000, but now that the vehicle is going to be in store, and like you said, the reviews that are coming in are just crazy. We had our review last week. It was glowing, unsurprisingly. We had some experience in the Model 3 before, and we're already impressed. So that's not too surprising. But even the old automotive press, all glowing reviews for the Model 3. Like you said, Tesla didn't send out any press. Well, the Motor Trend got a one-day test drive, and they did a quick review on that. Then I think Road and Track and Automobile Mag, those are all the 3 magazines that got an official press review. But there were maybe half a dozen other reviews from company, from, like you said, people just renting the car for a day from an early Model 3 owner, and they were a review that from Jamie, or a contributor, where actually it's his own car. So sorry about that.
Have you noticed any other reviews from somebody who actually owns one, rather than somebody who's like borrowed one, or
well, there are amateur review like on YouTube and stuff. But if you mean from like a professional, no, I don't think so.
No, I don't think I've seen any of them. And
well,
it's kind of weird.
Well, for that, you mean it will have to be a professional who owns, like, you mean a journalist, a reporter, or a professional blogger owning the car?
Yeah, I mean, even just like I don't know. It's surprising, because I feel like a lot more people who do these kind of things own Teslas, and
I don't think that's the case.
Yeah, I guess not really.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's I kind of feel like we still have the best review, because it's actually somebody who owns one.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things that when you own a car, that you consider when rather than if your buddy lent it to you for a couple hours.
And that's not to say that there's no value in the reviews of the amateur reviews on YouTube and stuff, but Jamie has a lot of experience with EVs, and he has reviewed the Nissan Leaf and the Ioniq and several other EVs before. So yeah, we're pretty proud of that. But yeah, like I said, I think 500,000 is going to be dwarfed at what's coming right now. A lot of people are just learning about the Model 3, and like you said, a lot of people reserved it without seeing it in person. But forget that, 100,000 people reserved it without even seeing it at all.
Right.
Like there weren't any leaks of the design. Like we had a leak of the design just before the unveiling, but it wasn't like a leak, an image leak.
It was like the clay model, I think, right?
Yeah. We described the design of the car, and our description was accurate and everything. But if someone buys a car based on the description of someone, it's like it would be surprising to me. So it's really like 100,000 people we reserved it without even seeing it, then about 400,000 we reserved it without seeing it in person, and
and we should note, like, the reviews aren't like, it's pretty cool. The reviews are all, it's awesome, like it's everything that Tesla promised. There are a few glitches with like software or latches or whatever, little things that are easily fixed. So I think this is like textbook disruption. What is happening right now? Like, this car is going to go out, and like millions of people are going to want to buy this thing. Like, Tesla will not be able to make enough of these until they start making Model Ys and whatever else. This is going to be the best selling car in America. It seems like a no brainer to me.
Yeah,
if they can make enough. That's the caveat.
Yeah, it won't be this year for sure. Maybe next year, depending on like the pickup truck sales.
I think I might have lost you there, Fred.
Yeah. Otherwise, I agree. I think the big difference, like we're gonna start to see a broader impact of it in the industry in general. So like the response from the automakers. Like recently, we saw that GM said that they couldn't capitalize on the delays of the Model 3. Like, they weren't ready to capitalize on it because like they were a severe 6-month delay in the production ramp up of the Model 3, and is technically over 100,000 cars, and there's a way to capitalize on 100,000 cars, but no one is ready to do it right now. I think the automaker in the best position to do so is probably Nissan with the Leaf, the new Leaf. But even then, like we discussed, it's not on par on Model 3 yet. Like they didn't end up going with their 60 kilowatt-hour pack. They're stuck with the 40, so they're not ready to take that either. So the latest to come out to comment on that was BMW, who have been talking about their own Model 3.
A lot of talk.
Yeah, a lot of talk. It's not a vehicle that you can get yet, because on occasion, BMW tried to present the BMW i3 as a Model 3 competitor, but that's not really the case. The real competitor, and that's like verbatim from what they said. They said that the real Model 3 killer will be the BMW iNext in 2021. Which is far down the road, but we're not there yet. But the interesting that came out this week about the iNext was that they were first talking about the 300-mile range, which would be competitive with the long-range version of the Model 3 right now, which is rated at 310 miles. And they increased that to 435 miles this week. That was said by a BMW executive in the sidelines of the Detroit Auto Show this week.
Why not 1,000 miles? Like, if we're just gonna put stuff on paper for 3 years from now, come on. Like,
yeah, I agree.
Give me some more stuff. Like, what kind of battery pack? Like, you're just throwing numbers out there at this point. I mean, my opinion.
In my article about it, that's what I mentioned too. Like that has to indicate like you have a new type of battery pack, because the thing is they also didn't confirm what standard they are, what type of a driving cycle did they base that on. So we know that sometimes BMW likes to use the European driving cycle, which isn't really representative of
What's that called? The NEDC or something?
yeah, NEDC, the European driving cycles.
So that is just complete BS. That, I mean, even I think that's even higher than when you're in a Tesla, you can choose optimum. Like basically, if you're in Florida, it's 80 degrees and you're on a flat surface, that's how far you'll go. And I feel like NEDC is like above that.
Yeah, well, they are like it's not magic either. So like they have a way to drive the car and reach that mileage with their type of a test for the driving cycle. But just for the same reason, you can get an hypermiler to get that 1,000 kilometers on the Model S. But it's just not practical. So you can advertise that. They choose to advertise the NEDC because they can achieve it, even though it's not practical. But they didn't say that was it, and they said that in Detroit, which is in the U.S., but that has never stopped them before. So we shouldn't assume that they are talking about an EP rating or just a general real world range. But either way, that's what they were saying with the 300 miles too. So either way, it's an increase from what they were talking about in anticipation of having to compete with the Model 3. In 3 years, which is always weird. So like you said, like, that's the disappointing part.
It's always 3 years from now.
But what's encouraging though is like they're planning volume for it. So that's a big difference for me, because there are plenty of vehicles in the pipeline right now from all those automakers. But we're never sure, are they going to just bring that in small volumes where they have to comply to regulations? Or is it going to be just a regular car program that they can produce by the 100,000? Like I think the BMW i3, which going to take a hit for sure from the Model 3. Not the i3, sorry, the BMW 3 Series.
3 Series is definitely going to take a hit.
Yeah, and that's like over 500,000 cars a year. I think even 600,000 cars a year program. So that's a really huge mass market program, even though it's like a mid-luxury car. And so the way they're framing it, the INX is going to be their big lineup in that mid luxury range, and it's going to be all electric, and it's going to kill the Model 3.
Kill
in 3 years. So like
Right.
if someone tells you, we're going to kill you in 3 years, yeah, you're not that worried. But
set a reminder.
So, and I thought it was interesting because a lot of news like that came out this week in recent days and months. Over the past year, pretty much like 90% of automakers announced how they see the electrification for the next decade or so. And they pretty much all said something in the range of 25% of all their production will be electric by 2025.
And coincidentally, that's exactly what they need to do to, sell cars in China and Europe at that point.
Yeah, in California and Europe and in China with all the emission regulation and
right. So they're doing what they have to do, and not a percentage point more.
Yeah, the latest example this week was, because the problem with that is that it's often misreported. Like a good example we saw this week was Infiniti, Nissan is luxury brand, and they announced like a big press release. We were going electric. That was the press release. Like we're going electric, and what that meant is that, like Volvo did a few months back, and Jaguar did the same too. What they're saying is that at that, whatever the timeline is, it was different for all three companies, but for Infiniti was 2021, is that all new models will have an electric powertrain. And an electric powertrain can mean hybrid to all electric. And they said that from 2021, so from 2021, all new models will have an electric powertrain, but they're going to still keep selling their existing model that don't have an electric powertrain. And by 2025, that will represent 50% of their sales. So that's higher than the 25, but that includes the hybrids. And the Infiniti's hybrid are based on the Nissan's new e-Power powertrain system. I don't know if you're aware of that powertrain system, but I think it's just ridiculous because they're trying to make it, they are marketing it as an electric car, but it's not even a plug-in hybrid. It's just a pure hybrid vehicle. It's like a range extender that
without a plug.
Without a plug, yeah. It's a range extender without a plug.
It's
So
like the absolute worst idea ever. It's like the worst of both worlds.
yeah,
So
well,
you have the
it's more
range of
efficient. It's more efficient than the gas power than the purely ICE engine. You have to give them that. Like it is. But yeah, other than that, it's stupid, especially compare just regular electric cars because yeah, it's 100% gas powered. That they're not
right.
way
If you don't
around
have
it.
a plug, it's going to
Yeah,
be powered by gas. I
yeah,
mean, even a regular, like a typical Prius, not the plug-in version, is powered by gas, 100%. It does regenerate some of the energy used, produced by the gas and braking, and puts that back into the road, making it more efficient.
yeah, because there's a battery on board.
Right, but it's still like all the 100% of the power comes from gas, unless you
Yeah,
hack it and you charge your car, at home somehow through some other means. So
yeah.
it's quite frustrating to see them trying to jump on this electric bandwagon in press releases and BS when
And it
like
works too.
it
Like that.
does. Like they get
Good.
good publicity, but like, man, just like build a car. Just build a car, put it on the road, see how it goes. I mean, I think Chevy's getting a good, reaction from the Bolt. I think i3 owners, BMW's, I think that came out like 6 years ago or something, and they haven't really done anything with it. Like i3 owners love them. Like why can't BMW follow up on that? We drove we drove the BMW 330e, which it's a plug-in. It's got like about 15 miles of electric range before the internal combustion engine it kicks in. But like a lot of plug-in hybrids, if you gun it, the gas engine comes on regardless.
Yeah,
So I mean, BMW makes great cars. They make excellent cars. Nobody disputes that. But man, just they could really, if they really did something, it would be kind of fun to watch,
yeah.
and it would probably give Tesla a run for the money. But
It's same applies to Infinity and all those other we're talking
yeah,
about too. Like the cars are great. It's just like the electrification program doesn't make sense, and Infinity is worse too because they're part of Nissan, which was the first to market with the Nissan Leaf. They have access to an all electric powertrain technology for years now, and they could have just put that into an Infinity model, whatever model you think of, and they probably could have sold a few cars. I'm sure.
yeah. I mean, like the they double up the engine, put it 4-wheel drive, would have been a
Yeah.
fantastic car.
Mhm.
Like a Q by whatever those Q by fours or like those crossovers. Put two Leaf battery packs, two Leaf engines in there. Boom, sold. That'd be
Yeah,
that'd be fantastic.
maybe just a thermal management system in it, because the
Well, it's
people.
premium,
Yeah, well,
just so the batteries last a couple of years instead of having to switch them out.
so Matt Obadia comments that they won't get serious until Tesla eats even more of their lunch, and the car dominance will drop by 2-0 by 2025. I agree with that. The demand will drop, but uh, my prediction, and I've shared that a few times before, is that at sometimes between 2020 and 2025, no one in their right mind will want to buy a car that is not all electric. And by in the right mind is the good, like someone who's looking like to buy a car for practical reason and everything. There's still gonna be a ton of petrol head. That's not gonna change in just a few years. But someone's like that is doing the math and looking at the economics of it. It won't make sense to buy a gas car at that point. It's gonna make sense to buy an electric vehicle. The infrastructure is going to be there and everything. That's at some point between 20 and 2025. But I don't think that by that time the production is going to be there to meet that demand, though. So there's going to be a few weird years where, even though everyone's going to want an electric cars, I'm not 100% sure that everyone's going to be able to deliver on them.
Do you think there'll be a time where people are converting internal combustion engines to electric because they can't get new models, or models are premium? Or do you think there'll be a market for conversions, like large scale?
Yeah, well, that's the key word you just said, large scales, because we've seen plenty of DIY people doing it themselves. But I've actually heard of a few startup working on like a way to streamline a car conversion from gas to electric. So especially since what we've seen with VW and the large recalls of diesel car and stuff like that, like there's a demand for it to convert it. And even here in Quebec, there's a startup that is especially working on tools to convert a car. So I'm not sure what that means yet. They're still pretty much in stealth mode right now, but I'll be very curious to go see what are those tools, because I just cannot imagine, like just from imagination, what kind of tools you will need to facilitate the conversion to a battery powertrain. But there might be, I'm sure there are smarter people that can think of something.
Yeah, there's some vehicles are easier than others, and I think once you build a conversion kit for one, it's the second one and third one and fourth one are much easier.
Yeah. That's
I'd
the
like to
thing.
see a Mazda Miata like conversion line. That would be kind of cool. That's one, you could put a really small pack in there, like 20 or 30 kilowatt hour, and you could have a nice little car. Yeah, so we're seeing more and more EV adoption on the horizon, and we're wondering if BMW is serious or not about it.
Yeah. Another, well, we talked about BMW, we talked about Infiniti. Another one this week that came up was Ford. Ford announced like an accelerator, like a somewhat of an acceleration of their or the EV investment plan, because they all start at an investment somewhere. So we're still talking about in the future and stuff. But ever since they changed the CEO last year, we heard rumbling about that he was more serious about electric vehicles, and they started their own. We reported that a few months back. They started the Team Edison. Maybe a swipe at Tesla somehow. But yeah, that team was to just they have a few different missions. They have a mission just a research and development to try to better understand the electrification space, but they're also working on different vehicle programs. And the first one that they're working on right now, the Mach 1 they are calling, which we think is like the code name for the crossover that they were talking about for a few years. That is coming in 2020, 2019 or 2020. Not sure if it's 2019, 2020, but yeah, it's a 300-mile crossover that's coming. And they had like a very short teaser at the Detroit Auto Show, which showed like the Mustang and the F-150 going inside a garage, and like some lightning bolt on the garage, and like, so they're sort of hinting that it's going to be a cross between a Mustang and a F-150, and it's going to be electric or something like that.
Like a Frankenstein of the
yeah. Did you see that teaser?
I didn't. I gotta go find that.
It's a 15-second thing that like
I feel like I feel like they're just gonna put in like they're gonna make like a hybrid F-150 with like,
that's what they're saying.
Yeah, but I would like a full electric one, obviously.
Yeah, no, I think like because you have the Mustang, I'm not sure you can like infer that because it's like the shape of a pickup, the shape of a Mustang. I think it's going to be really the crossover, but still, since people can like say a crossover is good for cargo, whatever, that's the F-150 part and performance of the Mustang coming into a crossover because it's electric. I'm speculating, of course, but I think that's the impression they wanted to give us. But if we go back to their original electrification plan, they did say that they plan on a hybrid F-150, but that's just HEV, like just no plug-in, just a hybrid.
Yeah, it was crazy because that would be such a cool vehicle. I mean, even a plug-in hybrid would be cool, but I think one of the things that they touted about it was its ability to generate electricity. Like you're on site at a construction thing and you need to run some drills or whatever, and you just plug it into the truck. But I mean, obviously that happens now. If you had an all electric vehicle and you had that would be super cool.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't have the thing running all the time. So you would have like a big power plant. And I don't know why. I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, why not just build a electric F-150? And even if you sell 0 of them, like, it's worth it. It's worth a shot because...
And they won't sell 0 of them.
Oh, I'd buy one.
Like, if you just look at Workhorse, Workhorse is doing exactly that. It's a plug-in hybrid though, but it's a plug-in hybrid with a 60 kilowatt hour battery pack. So it's not something that we have ever seen before, and it's the size of one of the smaller 150, and it got the ability, like you said, to plug in tools. So it's the battery pack can serve as an energy source for power tools for people that are actually using pickup trucks for work, which is not sure if it's the majority of people, but they're saying that they're bringing that to market next year. So last week they ended up opening up reservation for the public, because first they're gonna start delivery this year, I think, but it's just gonna be for commercial fleets. So it's for companies that ordered a bunch of them, and they said they already had like 5,000 reservations just for commercial fleets. So there's definitely demand for it, and they are also, because what Ford does too is that they sell the chassis of their trucks. They sell F-150 chassis, and companies make new powertrains for them. And a lot of the companies right now are just buying their chassis directly from Ford and putting plug-in hybrid powertrains, which is already better than what Ford is planning for 2020, which is just a hybrid without a plug. So I just don't know why they can't do it themselves. Like they have the resources to just put a bunch of money on it and develop a battery pack. So right now, what I'm seeing is that Workhorse is gonna definitely beat them to market. Then we've seen also a company up in Canada, in Ontario, doing something similar to Workhorse, but all electric, so no plug at all, no gas engine at all in it. And one company that we reported on just earlier today, that's not really on our top stories of the week, wasn't that popular, but I'd like to mention it anyway because I think it's worth it. It's Rivian Automotive from Illinois, and Detroit. I think they're mainly based in Detroit, then research and development and everything. But they bought the shuttered Mitsubishi plant in Illinois, and they confirmed recently, because they updated the website, that their first vehicle they're going to produce, there's going to be a pickup truck and an SUV built on the same platform, and it's going to be all electric, and it's going to have a decent range. And I'm pretty excited for it, because unlike what we've been used to with the EV startup scene lately, with like the Lucid and the Faraday Future and stuff, which have developed great vehicles and they've been quite public about it, but in terms of production plan, that hasn't panned out yet, and we have yet to see anything. But Rivian went the other way around, so we don't know much about their cars. What I reported on earlier today was the first most important information yet that we know about the vehicles. But what we know for sure is that about the production plans, where they bought the Mitsubishi plant in Illinois, which is very similar to when Tesla bought the NUMMI plant in 2010.
Right.
That was a big deal in 2010. So many of maybe today's EV enthusiasts, as ourselves, maybe not everyone remember that, but in 2010, when the automotive world in general wasn't in great shape, with just coming out of the 2008 2009 crisis, and Tesla just got a huge plan, like a 500,000 car a year plan for $42 million, and they had all the content still in it and everything. So 2 years later, Tesla was producing cars. They were producing the Model S in low volume, granted, but that ramped up to 50,000 Model S a year in just a few years. So that's that was unprecedented for a new automotive automaker, a new automotive company. So that's I'm drawing parallel between that and Rivian, which bought the plant for 16 million with all its contents. So I'm cautiously optimistic that I think there's something there.
Right. It seems like this company has its priorities straight. Like, rather than building a flashy prototype and hyping it and going on Twitter and doing all kind of crazy CES things, this company quietly bought a manufacturing facility, something that Faraday still hasn't figured out.
Well, they bought one. Faraday bought one.
Yeah, finally, after getting kicked out of Vegas.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. That's the important part too. But they have
but
a facility right now, but it's not a car factory. That's important to say, though.
yeah, I mean, so this company it seems like if you like really genuinely wanted to build a car and you had your priorities straight, you would need to you would need to buy a place to build a car, and that would be like a high priority. And then you would, want to start hyping your car somewhere down the line when you were about to start selling them, not before you had even finished the first prototype. So it is encouraging to see a company like this. And like, frankly, like, it can't just be Tesla. Like there has to be more than one EV startup that succeeds. And, up until now, it's just, Tesla's the behemoth, and all these other little, they're not little by any means, but all these like smaller players are kind of like they're producing like a few cars or maybe they're getting bought up by a bigger company or whatever, but no one's kind of followed Tesla's footsteps and kind of come out of the startup phase and turned into a real car company. And we're hoping that one of these other ones do. And, it sounds like Rivian at least has their priorities straight.
Yeah, I agree with that. Because we're often accused of being biased toward Tesla and stuff, but we are EV enthusiasts at heart, and it's much easier to get behind Tesla than like on a regular automaker. Well, yeah, it doesn't help when we have a Tesla shirt too set, but yeah, it's so much easier to get behind Tesla when you're an EV fan than regular automakers, because they still carry that old business model of selling gas-powered cars, so they still defend those kinds of cars. So it's much more difficult to get behind them when they start lobbying against ZEV mandate and emission regulation, stuff like that, which all automakers still do, aside from Tesla and those other startups that only sell electric vehicles. Which is why it's just easier to get behind them and to support what they're doing. But yeah, for the same reason that Rivian is interesting. Also, SF Motors, that we reported a few weeks back, that they bought the Hold Hummer plant. I'm blanking on where it's located, but it's somewhere around there too. And
yeah, I mean, that's the ultimate irony, the good irony, where you have the absolute worst polluting car in the world, and it gets bought out by the company that theoretically is going to have an electric vehicle.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they're gonna make an electric Hummer though, but that'd be nice.
I'd buy one.
Yeah, the guys, the Crystal guys in Austria did one for Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, that was he had Mercedes, right?
Yeah, the Mercedes first. So those guys apparently they're real good friend with Arnold, because they're both
Publicity.
Yeah, publicity, and also I think Arnold still goes back to Austria a few times a year, and he's still close to that place because he's originally from there. But yeah, those guys just do battery packs. They build battery packs for conversion. So that's one of the company. And I know that it showed up in the comments earlier what name of companies are looking for things like that, and Crystal would be one to watch too. It wasn't one that I was referencing earlier, but they specialize in that, making battery packs for existing cars, and they did one of the SUV, a Mercedes SUV for Arnold, but a few months later they ended up doing also a Hummer, so the first Hummer conversion with the G-Wagon. Matt just corrected me, the Mercedes is a G-Wagon for that they converted to electric, and a few months later they ended up making a Hummer for Arnold, because he's a big fan of Hummers, as people remember from his days as a governor of California. But yeah, SF Motors ended up buying that plant in the US, I mean, and so there were two side-by-side plants, and the company that was operating them had a plant just for the commercial Hummer, and they're also making other SUVs for other companies, including Mercedes, and they had the separate plant which was for the military Hummer. So they were keeping that plant, but they sold the commercial one to SF Motors, and at the same time, or around the same time, SF Motors ended up buying Martin Eberhard's company, the original founder of Tesla, and he was working on building new EV powertrains. So timing was perfect. Combine the two together, put some Chinese money behind it, and then you get a new AV startup.
That Chinese money, man, like it comes and goes. Like it comes and as quick as it comes, it's gone.
Yeah, well, I think like so we're basing a lot of this on the experience we had with Faraday
Just
Future.
fair day, yeah.
Yeah, and that's not like fair to Chinese money.
Absolutely not. No. And there's a lot of like legit, like seriously legit, like BYD, legit Chinese EV companies. I mean, frankly, China's beating the US and North America in EV adoption, and it's it's policy. I'm sure 99%. If we had to buy electric cars, we would buy electric cars, but like it's not fair to make fun of China when they're ahead of us. So
yeah. Well, they're ahead of us in overall adoption. That's for sure. And the EV mandate is really aggressive compared to what we have in the U. Well, we don't even have a federal one and a national one in the US. And I don't think it's coming, at least for the next 3 years. But yeah, I don't know what we have. What are the things we have planned for to talk about?
Should we jump into the boring machine?
Oh yeah, the boring company. So yeah, that was an article that I posted yesterday. I got an email earlier this week about winning the ad contest. Like
it seems kind of fishy.
Yeah, it's not fishy. That's the way. Well, let's come back to the beginning of it.
We went to our statisticians, and it looks like we got like 1,000, a little bit under 1,000 to 1 odds of one of us winning.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It was also a price in the referral program to start with. So, but for some reason in my referral program, it never showed up the secret level. So I didn't think that I was gonna win it. So that came perfectly for me, the chance to win that independently from the referral program. So Elon started selling hats for the Boring Company. I have it right here.
I just had a thought before I forget. I'm going to say it. He's getting people to think they won a contest, but they're gonna actually be the drivers of the boring machine, so he doesn't have to pay drivers. So he's funding the company by hats, and then he's getting people to drive the machines by giving that, telling them they won a contest. So
yeah,
go ahead.
So I'll what you're saying is I'll end up working for him for a while. And, yeah. So yeah, and they ended up selling 50,000 of those things, which is insane. And Elon was sort of half jokingly saying he was financing the company with the hats, which is nonsense, of course, because it's 1 million in sales.
More pricey than that, yeah.
Yeah, and he said that 10 of the 50,000 hat buyers would get a chance to go visit the first stage of the tunnel, which is under Los Angeles right now. They have like a few miles done, or they did a 500-meter tunnel, and now they're doing a 2-mile tunnel, and they are somewhere within that other 2 miles that they're doing. So in the next few months, they could probably complete that 2 miles. But they also requested a permit for like the more significant one that's gonna go along the 405, the 101.
What are they gonna do with all the dirt?
Good question. I think we're talking about maybe packaging it, like making a very compact and using it for the walls.
Oh, you mean the border wall?
Yeah.
Oh,
like they could compact it. That was one of the things that they mentioned during like the presentation, but I'm not sure if that's what they end up doing. We'll probably find out this summer when we're going there. And yeah, so this week they ended up sending the invites to the 10 winners. Turns out I was one of them because I bought 5 of those hats to increase my odds, and I was so I was 1 in 1,000, which is not great, but not that bad either. And a lot of people are speculating that I wasn't randomly chosen, that they picked me out.
And of course, the question is, why would they do that?
Yeah, they have
invite you as press and like not tarnish their reputation.
Yeah, so even in the comment section of my article about it, there was thousands of comments about that, like joking about the fact that I was not randomly picked, but I was chosen. So okay, that's fine. But then my usual naysayers and the people that the bad tongues about me pick up on that. It's a conspiracy and whatever. Like Okay, it's a conspiracy. It's a conspiracy. What was the benefit of it? Like, if they wanted me to go there and see the Boeing machine, they could have invited me at any point. Inviting me then, inviting me now doesn't change anything. I would have gone anyway. Whether I've won with the because they're not paying for the trip either, too. So
Oh, really?
no, they're not. So like, it doesn't change anything. If I go there, or if I go as a winner of the program, if I go as press, that shouldn't change much. So
It's a no expenses paid trip to
yeah,
Los Angeles in the summer.
yeah. So what's the
Maybe
advantage
maybe
for
Elon will
Elon
buy you
to?
brunch or something.
So yeah, why would he take the risk to rig a random drawing to invite me when he can just invite me otherwise? And Tesla has invited us to events before. It shouldn't be an issue. So everyone that's thinking about that, yeah, I don't see an argument for it. It doesn't make
Well,
sense
it's
to
just
me
like,
at
why
all.
would you do that? I mean,
Yeah.
okay, here's a conspiracy theory. Maybe the person that was, picking the names out of the hat was a super big Fred fan. And he was like, oh, I'm going to slip Fred's thing in there. And I'm going to, because I love Fred. And I want to see Fred come out to California. Maybe that's what happened.
Yeah, I doubt it. I think I just went crazy and bought 5 hats, which increased my odds a lot from like 1 in 5,000 to 1 in 1,000, and that made me
So,
win. And I never win anything, so I'm gonna take that win. And I won randomly the drawing. That's my luck for the year, and I run out of luck now. But that's the other thing
you've
too.
been in the zone for like 2 or 3 years now. Come on.
No, well, I'm not sure it's luck. It's not all luck too. That one is definitely luck. For the
Right.
past 2 years, I've been doing well, but I don't think it's all luck. I've been working pretty
It's
hard
been
too.
some hard work involved as well.
Yeah, but yeah, that's the thing too. That happens, and then Tesla ends up updating the referral program app, like the loot box or whatever they're calling it. And now the thing shows up like the secret level to drive the Boeing machine, which is exactly the same perks as the random drawing, and now it's in the hat like as if I wanted to. So uh, now it doesn't change anything. Well, I'm not
Okay.
sure because I haven't got an invite for that yet.
So let's just clarify this here. So you bought a bunch of $30 hats to win, to have a chance to have your own flight, buy your own flight to Los Angeles, your own lodging and your own food theoretically. And then you get to drive a machine that races a snail for
And still lose at
and
this
still
point.
loses to a snail, but eventually it's going to win. For let's say a half hour, so you're going like maybe a foot.
Oh, I'd be very surprised if I'm gonna drive this thing for half an hour. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be a few minutes, but sure.
So you're basically going international flight to drive a boring machine, which is clearly well named, a foot, and then flying back home. That's You've
I
won.
get to yeah, that's the thing that's
Quite
not.
lucky.
Yeah, that I think that was surprised too, which is good for us, for Electrek, for our readers too, because that's something that we wanted to cover before, but we didn't have an opportunity. They're gonna try to make that thing with the boring driving the boring machine coincide with the SpaceX Hyperloop weekend.
That would be cool.
And they says that, yeah, they says I was gonna get an invite on that too. So it's not just, and that wasn't with the referral program. So that's something that I'm sort of glad that I won the
So are
app
you going to
too.
actually get to ride inside it?
No, no, no. They don't. They're not putting anyone in the pods yet. No, it's the same.
So you won the opportunity to be a tester of the Hyperloop.
Yeah, yeah. No, that would be awesome. But it's like the design weekend where all the teams bring out their prototype of pods, and they put it in the 1 mile Hyperloop test chamber on the along the SpaceX headquarters, and they shoot them out of the tube, and you get to see like the very latest technology. And since it's the second design weekend like that, I think we're gonna see like there's gonna be probably some big improvement, because the first time was pretty impressive already, that what the team came up with some sort of design they did, and now the second times around, I'm thinking we're gonna see some really good things.
And just for clarification, this has nothing to do with Virgin Hyperloop.
No.
That is now kind of like the number one spin-off / competitor of Tesla's, or not Tesla, but Musk's Hyperloop kind of team, which is kind of associated with the Boring Company and also kind of associated with SpaceX and I guess Tesla too.
Yeah, that's something that I'll try to find out when I'm down there.
Get an org chart. Get an Elon Musk
Yeah,
org chart. I would
yeah,
love to see that. Like you've got Elon Musk, and then you've got like his handlers, and then you've got the companies, and then they're all kind of crossing over to each other.
yeah. It's not clear. It's sorts of born out of SpaceX, like you said, but it's supposedly its own startup now. It's an independent company, but like the guy that was making the presentation for like the government entities was still an employee of SpaceX. So it's really not clear because really it certainly has more to do with Tesla than SpaceX in terms of like cross competency between the two company. They even said that they were going to use Tesla technology within the tunnels for the electric sled
Right.
system. So that's going to be like a Tesla powertrain on it and everything. So that's why we're interested, and we're covering it on Electrek too, because we know it's going to be electric transport at some point. Like
Right.
right now, we're talking about just boring tunnels, like we like literally digging the tunnels, but they're doing that to put electric transport system in them, which should alleviate some of the traffic on the surface, but also replace that traffic with zero emission transport, which is what we cover at Electrek. So that's why it's interesting, and it just so happened it's an Elon Musk project. What want me to say, and yeah, we're pretty excited about that. But the SpaceX always makes it clear that they are not affiliated whatsoever with any other Hyperloop startup like the Hyperloop Transportation Technology Company and the New Virgin Hyperloop One Association.
Yeah, they say that. I mean, they have to clarify that they're not part of Tesla. Like when SpaceX, they lose a rocket, like Tesla's shares go down, like somehow. I don't like. There's clearly like a disconnect somewhere in the like logic of, what's happening there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in terms of the Hyperloop, what complicates things too is like um, apparently they are working on their own system, Hyperloop system now from the ground up at the Boring Company, under the Boring Company. So they're not like they're gonna become competitors with Virgin Hyperloop One and Hyperloop Transport Technologies. So that's going to be interesting.
Yeah,
On
I
its
wonder
own.
if there's any competitive issues. Like, if these students are smart, are they going to show off their, best work when their prospective best, most likely competitors are the ones judging it?
Yeah, well, those students are student teams, so they're mostly just looking for a job, really. So they're showing out they're still there with a prototype, but
Right.
they will probably end up just taking a job somewhere else, and they're getting sponsors from. I think Virgin Hyperloop sponsored a few people, but also like companies that aim to supply Hyperloop systems, so like electric drive companies and maglev companies and stuff like that. So they are showing up there, and they are hoping to get hired by some of those companies, so the sponsors, maybe Hyperloop One, Two, and maybe the Boring Company. Now that they are also interested in developing their own Hyperloop system, and yeah, so with Virgin getting on board with Hyperloop One, that was like a big investment. They're talking about raising millions of dollars now. Um, we know that they had some issues because the founder and chairman got caught in the Me Too movement, and now he took a step back from the company. So that was the second scandal for the company, because the original co-founder too ended up leaving, and there were lawsuits from both sides. A lot of complication there too, and he's apparently also working on his own Hyperloop company now.
Yeah, I wonder if Elon ever regrets, open sourcing the Hyperloop idea.
Pretty sure he does now.
Yeah, I think if he
Yeah.
could put that genie
If
back in the bottle, he would.
yeah, if he's looking to develop his own system now, well, so competition is always good that to some degree. So, uh, well, like at what degree does really a Virgin Hyperloop One and there's on the Boring Company's project right now? I don't think that's a big deal at this point. Um, It's not like I think he needs a lot of money for it. If he wants to raise money, like Elon, that's his thing. Like he's really good at raising money. He has a big not all of Wall Street is behind him. He has a lot of detractors in Wall Street too, but he also has a lot of supports from Wall Street. So if he wants
Well,
to raise a few hundred millions for companies, it's not out of his capabilities. That's for sure.
yeah, I mean, he's made a lot of people a lot of money already, so they're probably happy to go back.
Well, do we have a few questions before we leave today? We're already almost an hour in right now. No, we haven't seen that weird video, Matt, yet. Apparently, there's a video going around of a Model X sliding off their driveway or something like that. We haven't seen that yet. What we've seen this week, though, is the video of the Model X, the guy ramming into his garage door with his Falcon wing door open.
It seemed like it was on purpose.
Yeah, it almost seems like it was purpose. We haven't reported on it because we couldn't get like the video. I tried to reach out to the guy, but I'm not sure he wants to share that video.
Cug Arpal asks, how many Model 3s are being produced per week now? I think I heard a report that we're at about 1,000 per week. Is that possible?
Well, the official word from Tesla is that if they extrapolate the last 3 days of production last year, they were at about 1,000 a year. 1,000 weeks, excuse me.
But I feel like we heard there was like a Thomson Reuters report that they were at 1,000 a week or something.
Yeah, I think that was just reiterating what I got from that report was just reiterating what they said in the the delivery numbers and production result from last quarter. I didn't see anything that was vastly different from that. It's just the phrasing might have been a little bit different, but I think roughly 1,000 a week is probably the best guess coming out of January right now. And they are apparently growing for 2,500 a week by the end of the quarter. So that's 2 months. So
and theoretically, when they move to the $35,000 models, they should be able to produce more of those because they don't have as many features and the battery, fewer batteries per pack.
So, well, yeah, in terms of batteries, in terms of cells per, like the battery pack is going to take as long as to produce. It's as complicated, really. It's just the battery cells that you have less of them. And in terms
if that's still the bottleneck, which probably isn't.
Yeah, we don't know what are the bottlenecks right now. Model S refresh in 2018. We talked about that on the last podcast or 2 podcasts ago, maybe.
I think it's pretty likely.
Yeah, we both agreed that a few things are coming in 2018. A refresh, I'm not sure if it's going to be a design refresh or a full design refresh or something like that, but I think we're going to see some updates at least on the capacity, like maybe a new battery pack, a new motors configuration or something like that. What we saw today was a new wheels, which is not the complete design refresh.
It was kind of like a combination of the turbines and the arachnids a little bit, right?
Yeah, well, it's still pretty much the same spoke as the turbines with a little slimmer, maybe a more refined design, but a new type of long nuts cover too that blends weirdly with the spoke. So it was a cool design. I like it. I'm not sure I like it more than the original turbines, but I think it's pretty cool. No problem.
We didn't put in the show notes yet today, but I thought it was fascinating that that conversation with the wheel designer about the efficiency of the wheels and how important that is. I mean, so anecdotally, I got a Model X with the 22-inch turbines, which it gets pretty poor mileage, and even with snow tires, I get better with smaller tires. And I imagine if my wheels were aerodynamic or I had like aero hubs like the Model 3, I would get even better mileage. And I'm really kind of surprised that Tesla doesn't offer that for more cars.
Well, I think maybe we should look into aftermarket stuff. Maybe we should do an article about that, trying to find the best aftermarket wheels for aerodynamics. Because Tesla is certainly doing some. They're going for design sometime more than aerodynamics for certain wheels.
Right, but I mean, if you look at the Chevy Bolt or the BMW i3, they clearly over-design or they overcompensate, where the wheels kind of look silly, but they're very like hyper aerodynamic.
Yeah.
And it's just surprising that Tesla doesn't at least have an option in the Model S, or I mean, I guess they did have the aero wheels at the beginning, which probably didn't sell very well.
Yeah. Matt says the government in Quebec is talking about delivering 50 Maris, Toyota Maris. What a waste of money. Yeah, well, you won't see me disagreeing about that, Matt.
Where are they going to put the hydrogen?
I mean, so we don't even have any hydrogen station yet. So they have
you have Quebec Hydro.
Yeah, hydro, but that's for hydropower, not for hydrogen. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure it has nothing to do with the fact that the ZV mandate is coming into operation this year. That has nothing to do with it, and it was completely copied from the Californian mandate, which advantages hydrogen fuel cell cars for the rapid charging, the rapid refueling, if you will. But it's awesome to have rapid refuel if you just have one place you can go to refuel. So it's ridiculous, really. I'm really disappointed in that. Well, I'm not disappointed in Toyota. Like that's what they're gonna do. Like they found a new place they can sell it. They're gonna try to sell it there. That's not their problem. But the fact that the ZV mandate in Quebec put a priority on that is just ridiculous, because no one's gonna buy that. It just doesn't make sense for passenger cars right now, and probably never will. So, yeah, that's. I'm not sure what to say about that. Like,
yeah. Well, I guess that's a pretty good place to end it this week.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll wrap it up there. And thanks again for joining us this week. And you can find us on iTunes. You can find us on your Tesla dashboard. You can find us pretty much anywhere podcasts are found. And of course, every day of the week, we're on Electrek writing up some great articles.
Yeah.
We'll see you next time. Thanks, Fred.
Thanks, Ed.